The world may soon no longer be a group of nation-states, of countries with large and rambling edges. It may instead become a host of information centres, of little city-states that are powerful and determined. These city-states would deal in information, the one resource that requires no space and generates itself. They would be built for those who find comfort in technology's cold embrace. A small band of modern citizens living at arm's length from the poor. If the future looks like anything, it looks like Singapore. This is the technological city-state, the 21st century fortress town.
In an age of nation-states, Singapore was at best an oddity, which somehow survived despite the odds against it. But the world is changing in a very profound and a very dramatic way. And curiously, it harkens back to, let us say, Europe before the age of nation-states, when you had many cities and principalities, all linked to one another by a network, but each retaining its own identity and some control over its immediate circumstances. And the world is becoming like that.
Singapore calls itself the intelligent island, more committed to the future than any other country. Less than 3 million people taking on the world.
I think technology has been very much at the heart of Singapore's entire strategy for survival as well as development. And we may not be the most technologically advanced country in terms of having nuclear technology or being able to send the man to the moon and so on, but we emphasize technology because it is virtually the only resource we have. And because Singapore is a city-state, we have an opportunity to make this a microcosm for what other cities in the world could become in the future.
There are no homeless, there are no poor. There are no unemployed. The information highway flows right through, and everyone has a role.
We envisage that within the next 10 years, we would have an advanced national information infrastructure, which will comprise high-speed wired and wireless communication links that will connect up virtually every home, every office, factories, schools, libraries, and people on the move.
Your attention please. Passengers are reminded that it's an offense to smoke, eat or drink in MRT stations and trains. The offense carries a maximum fine of $500. Please help us to keep the MRT stations and trains safe, clean and comfortable. Thank you for your cooperation.
This is the city as machine, and everything within it, from the people to the hardware, only has one function: to make the engine purr, to keep it racing forward. It's a hymn to automation, a showground for computers, a model of efficiency, a robot without a soul.
Singapore is using technology to organize the way people live in a modern city-state. One example is the area licensing scheme that we have in Singapore, the fact that people are going to be constrained from entering into congested areas, and it is not to be assumed that motorists have free rights to go wherever they want to, that there will be a social cost to this, We're now experimenting with electronic road pricing, which I think will come about very quickly. So it's not just technology, it's the whole idea that when you live in such close quarters to each other, there's got to be constraints on human behavior, and it's not just a simple issue of individual rights.
In the societies of the future, in the cities of the future, I do not think it is possible that you can have absolute freedom. But I think we have to accept in a city of, say, 20 million people, if you want that city to work as an effective machine, which is really what we're talking about, every machine has to operate with guidelines, or a computer has to have a program. I think we're going to have to accept in the future that people will have to be programmed a bit more if society is to be successful.
This is a vision of the future where the human bows to the machine. There is no talk here of computers that can free us. The language is more guttural. It is the sound of global business.
This is our most advanced factory to do this operation in terms of infrastructure and equipment. We have satellite links to Europe. To run such a plant like this, a high technology plant, you don't need thousands of operators, you need qualified engineers. You know, in Singapore there's a shortage of labor, so it's no problem to lay off people or not employ people, you know. Actually, the government is happy if you don't need too many people.
In a country where there is too much work, there is a need for foreign labour. So every day, there's a steady flow, carefully controlled, of migrants brought to do menial tasks and then, ungraciously, sent home.
Well, the greatest advantage in being a city-state is that we are able to maintain some control over the movement of peoples. If you go to most countries in the third world, cities are ballooning in a very nasty and unpleasant way. The urban drift is unstoppable, which means you cannot solve problems of crime, of drug addiction, traffic jams, prostitution, and so on. So, by historical accident, we are a city region with a fence around it. Of course, the gates are open, but we control what goes through the gates.
In Singapore, they have embraced the future, but they are not starry-eyed. They have built themselves a high-tech wall to keep the poor at bay and to keep their wealth inside. In the world of city-states, the dividing lines are clear between who is in and who is out, between the ones who taste the future now and those who have to wait their turn.
The movement of peoples will be one of the biggest problems in the next century. It will be one of the big themes in the next phase of human history. This new technology, this globalization we're talking about, means greater difficulty in controlling infections and contaminations from outside. So increasingly, the defenses have to be within, defenses in depth and defenses in the very organs of the city itself. Singapore can offer some insights into how these challenges can be responded to in the next century. Not so much Singapore in itself as a unique case, but Singapore as one of many cities in East Asia, all conducting their own social experiments, if you can put it that way, in how to organize society, in how to optimize their economic advantages in the face of these new technologies. The way to the future is not the past, and I don't think that existing methods of constructing democracy or socialism would serve us well in the years to come.
Singapore struck me as a culture in which, as William Burroughs once said about the United States in the 50s, everyone has the policeman inside. There isn't a big police presence on the street in Singapore, but the populace behaves itself. It is a future. It's one of those futures that's sort of fallen to earth a bit sooner than everyone else's. It's like Disneyland with death penalties. And I hope that isn't the future we're headed toward. I don't think the future is about control from the top. I think what we have to worry about is control from within.